Morning, Gamecock fans. Today is Monday, September 8th, the year of our Lord 2025, and this is Coffee with JC Shurburtt. Hope you're all doing well. Hope if you stayed up late and watched the Gamecock Saturday night that you got some rest yesterday. Um, the game, as far as that goes, we'll get right into it today. Not good enough on offense. That's pretty obvious. It's a Captain Obvious statement by yours truly, but not good enough at all. 253 yards against an FCS team. Bad first half. The Gamecocks did come out in the third quarter, I thought, and played like they should have from the beginning. I don't know. I hope. I really do hope that the rain delay maybe threw some things off on that side of the ball, but we have two games now to look at, and it's just not been good enough. And it starts with the offensive line. We talked all week last week about assignments. I don't think they did a very good job of that. You give up 5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks against an FCS opponent that has a good defense. I don't. I want to give credit. SC State's kids played hard. The delay didn't affect them at all. I mean, they looked ready to play and had some really good moments in that football game. They got a good team for that level, and I think they'll win a lot of games this year. But you can't go out there and do that against Vanderbilt, or you're going to lose. I mean, that's the bottom line. Carolina continues to play like it has the last 2 games on offense. Your chances of beating Vanderbilt, Missouri, maybe even Kentucky, are circling the drain, and all that talk about going to the playoff, being the 11th ranked team in the country this week, dropped a spot. That's probably going to not be on the table for this football team. They have to get it together and get it right and show marked improvement. Marked market improvement, marked improvement to have any chance at victory on Saturday night in the SEC opener at Williams-Brice Stadium. It's just that's the bottom line. It's still early. It's not time to panic, but there are reasons for concern. I mean, I can't sit here and say, "Oh, it's all hunky dory. It doesn't matter." The rain delay, all that, and I hope the rain delay was a factor. I really do, and hopefully there's no rain delay Saturday night. But the second scrimmage in the preseason, they had a similar weather delay and ended up in the indoor and handled it well. Shane Beamer talked about that, so it wasn't something that was foreign. I will say this. I want to say this for all you fans out there. Continue to give yourselves pats on the back because, look, some could have gone home. Some could have done this, that, or the other. It was, like I said, an FCS opponent. I mean, Carolina played like they did on offense, still won by 28 points. But the fans stayed, and it was packed at the beginning for 2001. I know some left late, but look, it's a tribute to this fan base and all of you passionate Gamecocks out there that happened, and it continues to be that way. I mean, in 2021, after the pandemic, the crowds were a little light, but I think a lot of people were still hesitant because of COVID. You do have some folks out there that probably weren't anxious to get into big crowds at the time, in 2021. But starting in 2022, man, the Gamecock Nation has flat out shown up, and man, just hats off to all of you out there. I did want to say something positive before we dive into the offense. But this offense is a struggling bunch, as Steve Spurrier used to say. I don't know what. I know the field position was not good in the first half, but man, you got to be able to take it 90 yards, drive it down the field. I'm going to start with Lenore Sellers. I don't think he played his best game. I don't know what it is about home openers with him. He didn't play his outside of the Old Dominion game. I think this was probably his worst football game. Left some stuff on the field as far as potential pass plays. Obviously, he can play a lot better. He said it in the post game. But he's got to play better as far as passing, knowing when to run, all that good stuff. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but So far through two games, Sellers in the first game obviously made some Superman type plays and looked great doing it. And this past game is very pedestrian performance all the way around. And it starts with the quarterback, obviously, but also starts big time with the offensive line. Now, I said last week, like I said at the top, assignments, that's very important when you don't know where to go and don't know who to block. It's problematic. You're going to look like you're blocking air and you don't know where to get, you're not going to hit anybody. And let me explain this too, because sometimes people, when you say assignments or whatever, they're like, well, what about coaching? Because everybody wants to blame coaching, and I want to be clear here. Assignments are coaching. Yeah, that's coaching. When I say that, I'm talking about coaching. A coach's job is to be a teacher and to teach. That's why you have coaches to tell them what to do, where to go, and all that. So it is coaching. You have to coach better and make sure they get it and all that. I mean, it's I see offensive line struggling throughout the country. Don't get me wrong. I don't know what I have a theory, but I'm not. I don't want to. I don't want to say it's applicable to South Carolina because I don't. I don't obviously don't have the playbook and know all that, but I have a theory. Even my stepson's high school team, sometimes the offensive line coaches in the age of zone blitzes and things like that, they use a lot of slide protection and assignment based things. And I don't know if it's gotten too complicated or not, but I just see an awful lot of bad offensive line play throughout the country. I mean, you can ask folks up at Clemson, they were really high on their offensive line, and through two games up there, they have not played as well as they could. Their offense is out of sync, according to some Clemson fans I talked to. And of course, they struggled with Troy. They were down 16-3 at half and rallied to win, played a good second half. I think the Gamecocks also came back, played a good second half. The difference in those two games, Carolina emptied the bench in most of the fourth quarter, and rested up because they were ahead because of special teams and defensive touchdowns. So maybe you didn't get to see two good quarters to make everybody feel good. But I thought third quarter Carolina played fine. But you can't just have fleeting moments on offense like you have the first two games and expect to beat Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Kentucky and LSU and whoever else. You just can't. I mean, it's they got to get back to that team that drove the ball down the field against Virginia Tech the first drive and do that. So they got to coach better up front on the offensive line. Obviously, Sellers has to play better. I'll talk about play calling briefly here. It's been very vanilla the first 2 weeks since that first drive. I don't know if that's by design or not, but you can't. College football, man, it's you got to get out there and attack and keep attacking and be creative and get up and down the field. It's a different type of deal than the NFL. I mean, the run between the tackles first two plays and throw a pass on third down. That happens a lot. It's not my favorite sequence of play calls. I mean, I guess the idea is if you get 6 yards or so, but that's a very NFL kind of thing. And so hopefully Mike Shula gets back to dialing them up like he did that first drive against Virginia Tech, and they continue to kind of do things like that and keep the defense off balance because it's not, if you got those kind of tendencies, it's not hard to call defense. And so that's I would hope that as we get into the season, there's more and more to this offense. But I don't know right now through two games, it's not. People talk about identity a lot, and that's kind of overrated. But I don't know what they're really actually trying to accomplish other than let's just keep running it, and hopefully a running back will break one and we'll get good blocking. And they're not going very far. I did think with the running backs, I thought, Faison had some good moments. Matthew Fuller, who I really like, could make a case for him to play a little more. I could make a case for and honestly, Attaway had 7 carries. I think Sewell had 5. They're kind of breaking it up like that. But for the second straight game, the Gamecocks had like 36 run plays and I think 20 pass plays. Lenoris has had 19 pass attempts in each of the first 2 games. I don't know. You got all these receivers, and many of them have, I thought good job, Mazeo Bennett getting his first catch. Nick Harbor didn't have a catch in the game, but Vendrevius Jacobs played very well. I thought he gave them a nice spark, 4 catches, 57 yards, and then the big touchdown at the end. Vendrevius had a really good offseason. He needed to. Obviously, was really good in the spring game and has had good moments in preseason practice. So maybe they're on to something there. I think Donovan Murph, for a true freshman, continues to be pretty consistent. Yeah, I think he had a drop, but against Virginia Tech. But 2 catches, 39 yards for him, including a long one. He's got some stuff to him. I like him. So Murph, Hart, all those guys. Jared Brown, hopefully he gets back. I don't know what's wrong there. He did get a carry for 2 yards, but he needs to probably, they need him. He's got some explosiveness out of him. I hope Brady Hunt's okay. Brady is off to a good start. You can tell he put in the work. He's according to Beamer, going to get some tests done. So I hope he's okay. I know they got depth at tight end. They do, and they'll be fine there, even if he's out. But just for him, I mean, man, you miss your whole year at Ball State. You come in last year just when you get going. You're hurt at the end, and then if there's something wrong this year, that just stinks to high heavens for him. He's a good kid and a good hard worker and a good player, as we saw. He led the team in receptions against Virginia Tech, but you just hope he's okay. But Michael Smith got another catch. They really need him to come on as well. He's a weapon they can use. 1 catch for 13 yards. Kind of 2 catches in 2 games. He needs to get going quite a bit. Like I said, this offense, you're just not going to get very far in college football if you're not. I'm not saying creative, but that's overused word as well. But if you're just kind of vanilla, and a lot of football folks out there that scout the draft and stuff, they did make note of the vanilla game plan against SC State. Now, you think you can go out there and have a vanilla game plan against an FCS opponent and line up and put a hat on a hat and run the football, but they couldn't. And if you can't run the ball against them and you continue to play at your same performance level, you're not going to run it against Vanderbilt or Missouri, especially Missouri. I mean, you're not going to get very far against those cats. The good news is, though, on all that, is that you don't get the same team every week. You improve or get worse week to week in college football. I remember I was thinking about the 2011 team today, probably one of the best defenses South Carolina's ever had. Well, the first 2 games, they gave up 37 points and a bunch of yards to East Carolina and then gave up 42 in Georgia. And then they settled in and played great football the rest of the year. So you hope, now that the thing coaches say, which is you make your most improvement between week 1 and week 2, that didn't happen at Carolina. Let's just be honest. It didn't happen. But, I've seen one side of the ball here struggle before, first couple of games, and then settle in and have a great go of it. So you hope that that's the case starting Saturday night with Vanderbilt, because if they don't, they're getting beat. I mean, Vanderbilt's a football team. Talking to someone the other day, sort of familiar with things, they call Diego Pavia the little engine that could. And that dude believes they're winning the SEC. And there's nothing that's happened this year so far in 2 weeks that would make them think otherwise. I mean, they're going into a hostile environment Saturday night at Williams-Brice, but Lane Stadium, same type of hostile environment. They get down. Virginia Tech had them down 20-10. It looked like the Hokies were on their way, and then boom. Vandy kept fighting and playing. Virginia Tech completely collapsed in the second half. It's kind of like a here we go again thing for them and that program, and they have unique issues, obviously, but Vandy ended up running them out of the stadium, and the Hokies went home. The fans did. And lost 44-20. So that's a team that put up 44 points and 34 unanswered and a chunk in the second half. against the team Carolina got exactly two touchdowns and a field goal against. Which, by the way, the last four games for this football program, two touchdowns and a field goal exactly against Clemson, Illinois, Virginia Tech, and now SC State. So, and that's on offense. Obviously, defense and special teams have scored. Special teams, man. Whew. But what do they need to do to fix it? I don't know. It's up to the coaches. You got to coach better up front on offense, and hopefully this is not the offense we're going to see from a schematic play calling standpoint, game planning standpoint moving forward, because it's very, very pedestrian. I mean, I know last year's offense kind of would go turtle mode sometimes to protect leads, and I thought that Dowell Loggins, if there was a criticism I had, last year in hindsight, which means absolutely nothing if you do it in hindsight, right? Who am I? But was that he did try to kind of gear down at times when gearing up was probably needed because you're going to need more points. But creativity wise and college offense wise, where is that offense was fine. What we're getting this year is very, very basic so far. But hopefully it's just you got a first game and then you got a second game where maybe you're not showing your hand. Hopefully it's things like that. The delay, hopefully these intangible things are the issue and it's not something else. But the bottom line is that offense has to get better. Silver lining. There are positives. No turnovers through two games. So there's a change from last year that's pretty good. Everybody's holding on to the ball, not throwing interceptions. That's good. But everybody from Lenore Sellers right down the whole offense needs to look in the mirror, coaches, players, and say, hey, this is not good enough. What can I do to make it better? And it's got to happen in a hurry because I'm sure, I mean, Vanderbilt has not beaten South Carolina in a long, long time. It's been 2008, which was 17 years ago. And this is not a Vanderbilt team I mean, this is a very good Vanderbilt team as far as if you do not beat them and do what you are supposed to do and get your assignments right, they are one of the best coach teams in the country. They'll beat you. There's no question. They'll beat you. And they have better athletes than they did last year, and they're healthy. That Carolina played them last year up in Nashville when they were coming out like 5 or 6 straight games, murderers row. They were beat up and tired. You could tell Clark Lee in the pregame or that week before was like, man, we don't know who's going to be up or down. They've got their dudes. It's early. This is not the end of the year. They've played one tough game, and won it decisively. So this is a full strength operation, and they've gone into Auburn and won. They've gone into LSU last year and played them tough. Diego Pavi has gone into Auburn twice and won. Once is New Mexico State. They're not going to be intimidated, especially after they went into an environment last week at night like they did. Yeah, and I say the offense. I mean, I like that little reverse to Nick Harbor they ran for 12 yards on Saturday night. That's not vanilla, but so I don't want to make it sound like every play. It's just kind of the rhythm of it's very NFL like, and I've never thought that in college you could really do that. Um, I again, whatever was going on the first drive against Virginia Tech, that was that's more the idea because you'd attack one side, then you'd attack the other, then you'd go down the middle, and then you'd run, and then you'd do a quarterback draw out of an empty set. I mean, it was beautiful. Oh. And I thought to myself, I was in the stands with Mad Dog, and I think he told me, he said, man, if they get that kind of play calling, is one of the best called drives ever, and all that. Or I said it, I don't know. But then I thought to myself, I was like, I hope that's not it. It's kind of a pre-scripted thing, but I didn't. Mike Shula's coached a long time, man. He'll figure it out, hopefully. You hope, right? We can only hope. We're just out here. We have no control over this. But Yeah, no turnovers is a good thing. I just think maybe, hey, look, yeah, first two games, flush it, move on. How are you going to attack Vanderbilt? How are you going to move the ball against their defense? Virginia Tech had some success doing that early. And it comes down to execution and it comes down to keeping them off balance and not being predictable and all that happy stuff because they're going to play defense assignment football wise. I mean, they're going to be in the right position. They were last year against Carolina. They were last year. So we'll see what happens there. We'll talk more about the Vandy game heading into the week. Defensively, gosh, with all the injuries and stuff, I mean, that they face some adversity as well. Too many completed passes through the first two games. I think we'd all agree with that. That's kind of been what's led to both teams. Carolina's played having a 10-minute time of possession advantage. Against you do that against Vandy again, that can't happen. Um, you know, Too many completed passes, but you knew State was going to throw the ball. I thought the edge room was probably the story of the game. Dylan Stewart continues to be amazing. You can't really block him. He had a clowny style run blow up. He got a sack again. Means he's on pace for 12 sacks this year. Still, Brian Thomas Jr. played one of his best games. I thought forcing the fumble. Shout out Jerron Willis, who played a lot of snaps. I thought he played well. Good to see a guy that stuck with the program. Hadn't really played a whole lot since he got here. Getting that opportunity and scoring a touchdown. And we love defensive touchdowns at South Carolina, right? And got one there that obviously helped the team. And with that kind of scoring margin, it did allow for Carolina to empty the bench in the fourth quarter and play reserves offensively. And so that's good. And then they basically threw one pass after that. So, maybe the 253 yards a little misleading. I think the first half, though, it was a disaster. It should not have happened. But third quarter, when the starters were in, they did bounce back. They put points on the board and all that. But I'm talking defense now. I don't mean to get back to the offense. I don't want to sound like I'm on the warpath. I mean, like I said, it's not time to panic, but there are concerns and the reality of the situation. And I always want to be honest, is that if it's not better, you're not going to win. That's not winning football, what we've seen really the last 2 weeks out of the offense. It just hasn't been good. And for a team heading in where the big concerns were replacing guys on defense, and you see some of the same issues up front that you saw last year, that's got to change. And there's no reason why it shouldn't. It'd be one thing if you were starting a bunch of dudes up front that weren't big and strong and athletic, or maybe you're undersized and you can't move your feet. I mean, there's no excuse. I'm just not. I'm not gonna. Last week when I talked about assignments, it may have seemed like it was an excuse, but logic dictates that if you're struggling with the mental part of it, the first game in a first game in college football, that you get better. Especially last week against a team that you didn't know what they were going to do on defense, right? You sort of knew. You had tape on State coming in this week and same old stuff. I mean, you just got to get that better. Um, and like I said before, I mean, and this was something I probably should have said at the beginning when I said it last week, is assignments. When I'm talking about assignments, that is coaching. Just so we're all clear there. Because I don't want people to sit there. Well, you're not even mentioning coaching, are you? Yeah. Actually, I am. That is that. But I should have explained that and said that. I'm not trying to mask anything here because obviously it's got to get better. Back to the defense. Quay Dodd, true freshman, bright future. From Eastside High School. He's going to be kind of like his cousin Kevin Dodd. It may not even be that long. Kevin was sort of a guy at Clemson. I think third or fourth year is when he started getting in and playing. Long-term development guy. Quay may actually play earlier. I thought he got a sack, got home for a sack when they emptied the bench. Good for him. And he and Anthony Addison, the two true freshman edge players, have been doing good things. I thought Demon Clowney played pretty good, right? Let's give a shout out to the other Clowney. He had a tackle for loss. I know he had the one of his penalties or whatever, but he got after it, got some playing time. So he's going to be. It's going to be hard to do a hot 11 players this week on the show. But I just added Demon Clowney to my list, and it is pronounced Demon Clowney. So good job by Clowney. And then Desmond Umazulu also got home for a sack. I think that's his first career sack at Carolina. So hats off to Dez. We all want Dez to start playing better and playing well with JT Gear sideline. I mean, I think he may be back this week, but they're going to need him. They're going to need him. But I thought the edge room in general played pretty well. SC State didn't run the ball that great, but they weren't a very good running team coming in. And then you had injuries. You had Cisse. Kilgore was already out. You went, gosh, I guess Kelvin Hunter had to get in there and play some nickel. Lots of snaps for Miles Norwood and folks like that. Vakari Swain had to go out. But Beamer said, after the game, when you listen to Beamer's press conference Saturday night, you're kind of concerned is going to be the walking wounded on defense this week, which again, that's not a recipe for success against Diego Pavi and Vanderbilt with all they do. You have to play sound assignment football. Experience is going to be very key. You need guys like Kilgore out there and Swain and Cisse. But it looks like, based on Beamer's comments last night, everybody's going to be good to go. So that's dodged a bullet there, man. But I thought that, clearly, there were some good moments for the edge position and for some of the younger defenders. I mean, heck, man, it was unfortunate they gave up the touchdown. That happens late in games, but the starters on defense, they haven't given up a touchdown this year. And that's good. It's been but don't break for sure. Too many passes are being completed. But they're getting pressure. I think the defensive tackles have played well. They're going to have to play better or play at a high level Saturday night. But very few complaints defensively other than teams are completing too many passes. And drones in the opener had some incompletions and drops that, another quarterback like Diego Pavia would probably complete. So, it's kind of funny that, we sit here and, we talk about the offense and the secondary, and it's not always all on the secondary when teams complete passes if you can't get pressure. But yeah, we're sitting there talking about that, and I don't think anybody. I think the idea heading into the season was offense is going to be pretty good. Defense is rebuilding. The front seven obviously lost a lot of players. Secondary has a lot of players coming back and added talent. So I don't know. And look, I think the secondary has played well overall. Don't get me wrong, but it seems like too many completions right now. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but another good outing for the defense, and Clayton White's units continue to perform well. They're stingy, and they're going to have to be stingy again Saturday night. Special teams, Vakari Swain. I can't remember anybody returning 3 punts for a touchdown within 2 weeks at Carolina. Maybe there's somebody back in the day, maybe from the 80s. Maybe my mind's going, folks, and I just don't remember it. But man, what a ball player. And certainly, I mean, people are starting to put him in the Heisman conversation. I don't know about that, but it is a Deebo Samuel circa 2017 type of start on the kick in the punt return department for him. Best since A. Sanders back there. And he played very well on defense. Now, he also went out with got banged up a little bit. I don't know that Beamer, and I don't know that they were going to put guys back in, even if they're just a little shucking up in the game, because, the score 17-3, you're about 2 touchdowns at halftime, even with your, offense playing like dog vomit. But, and then it got up 31-3 pretty quick. So, I get it. Rest them up. They don't look back and go, oh, style, you should have played your starters and padded your stats against SC State. As long, it makes no sense if guys are a little banged up and then that becomes an injury that causes you to miss and you lose games. I mean, that's not smart. All the offensive issues aside. But Yeah, so they went out. I mean, William Joyce missing the 45-yard field goal was disappointing. That was the best drive of the half for the offense at the time. But he rallied and made a 49-yarder, and that was big. He's got range. He's got some range. He's got a big leg. Mason Love, the leg of destiny, as Latte Lance likes to call it. Punted well again, almost a 50-yard average. And I get back to this on special teams. That punt, return, and block unit, because Maurice Brown had another block punt on the second return for a touchdown. And I don't know what was Vicari Swain calling that rule, the no fault rule. Is it like car insurance? No fault, no fault accident. I guess there was no risk there to catch it and go, but he caught it and went and put a touchdown on the board, and that was big. And that's good. That's the positive. I think the special teams all in all are looking good. William Joyce doesn't need to miss many 45-yard field goals, right? That can't be a thing because, especially if you're struggling on offense, you've got to put points on the board. You can't have drives where you don't, where you're down there. But yeah, I think the special teams, Joe DeCamillis's units look pretty good. And I'll say this: those types of successes are all about recruiting because if you don't have a Vicari Swain, you're not returning the ball. If you don't recruit well, Maurice Brown came here as a walk-on, right? But they identified him as an athlete that can play, and all those guys on that punt. I mean, they're all like good athletes, and so and look, the discipline too. I mean, what are the chances you have three punt returns for touchdowns, including one on a weird deal where it was blocked and you don't get some kind of crazy penalty? I mean, how many times watching football Saturdays, Sundays, whenever do you see a punt return for a touchdown called back? And you can tell when the guys are down there blocking, and they do. They take a lot of pride in it. They'll hold up their hands and shield the guy, turn their body to avoid penalty. And that's good coaching. And that is, I talked about coaching is teaching. That's good coaching by Joe DeCamillis, Shane Beamer, everybody involved with the special teams. Caden Ramsey will announce tonight. He is a three-star tight end, flex tight end, wide receiver from Cross. I believe the Gamecocks will land him. In-state athlete, a good player. But that announcement is this evening. You can get on thebigspur.com and check that out. Also, the morning show coming up. Pat DeMarco and John Whittle are in today with Mike Morgan, I believe, as the co-host. Mike got to call Mississippi State, Arizona State. Big win for the Bulldogs this past weekend. And then we'll have the show, Mad Dog Monday, rocking and rolling with myself and Phil, and then tonight sports talk, and then we're into our regular scheduled week. Week 3 is already here. Going to talk a lot about Vanderbilt this week, folks. This is a game that from listening to me concerns me every year, but especially this year, because in college football, we know all things come to an end at some point. Vanderbilt, ask Georgia and Kirby Smart. Ask Tennessee about Vanderbilt. They've lost to them in the time since Alabama lost to them last year. But, you don't need that to hurt a good season. You don't need it to be this year. Although, like I said, the bottom line is if you don't play better, you're not going to win. Because if you look at the team that went into Virginia Tech and beat Virginia Tech, and you look at how Carolina played Saturday night, that team would have ran Carolina off the field. But not every team, it's a fact, right, that teams don't play like they do week to week in college football. It's why it's very unpredictable as a sport. So we'll see what happens. And Carolina's not alone. I mentioned this on the Big Spur this morning. People in Athens are wondering why they beat Austin Peay 28-6. People in Baton Rouge, Louisiana are saying only 23-7 against Louisiana Tech. People at Clemson, 27-16 over Troy, had to rally to beat them. Good Lord, Gainesville, Florida. Whew. Certainly would rather be in Carolina's position right now than having suffered a loss. South Florida's a really good football team, though, I think. I think their defense, after what I saw against Boise State, is good. And I'll say this, too, about South. Here's an example. Boise State basically kind of runs the same kind of stuff that Kentucky does. It's that old Boise State pro style, and they wilted against a good defense. And then Billy Napier's offense is kind of pedestrian at times too. They like to run it and run with their quarterback or whatever. Um, I mean, you saw college football sometimes if you do that, you don't have a lot of points on the board, don't have a lot of yards, and you can play an upstart and lose. And so that's there's some cautionary tales. But I'm sure Georgia's going to be back. They play Tennessee on the road this weekend. Florida has to go to LSU, so there's two of those teams. Clemson goes to Georgia Tech. That's a challenge. And so, and then Carolina plays Vanderbilt. So all the groups, all the group of teams that maybe around our neighborhood that didn't play all that well against lower level teams, they certainly will need to play well this weekend. But Carolina's not alone in that kind of performance. It's just, you combine it's just the offense. 2 weeks in a row, offensive line has to get better. And, at some point, if it doesn't, you have to say, well, it's not going to. I don't know that. I mean, and there's a solution for this team. If it happens that way, it's what you did against Clemson last year. Sellers, okay, you're not going to get protection. So one read and take off. I can assure you that's a better idea than, or I don't know. I can't assure you. I'm not a coach, like I said, but I think to me that would be a better, in my opinion, that would be a better idea than just this, highly mechanized, predictable, up the middle, whatever. But again, maybe that was by design. I would like to hope that there's more to more in the arsenal that maybe they've been letting on the first 2 weeks since that first drive against the Hokies. All right. Thanks for listening today. Appreciate all of you out there. I'll be back on the show later. This has been Coffee with JC Shurburtt. Have a great Monday, everybody. Holla at you soon.